Live stream. You are live, it says. Welcome.
Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. This is Crypto Zero to Hero, Crypto Curious. I'm John. We're here with Jack. So, Jack, today I wanted to talk about open source, especially in relation to closed source. And put the page you had back up. That's the Bitcoin chart. We're not going to worry about Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is open source, and we'll talk more about that later. But go back to that open source versus closed source on Google you had up there.
Yep, you got it. Bang.
So yeah, there's some differences. This is a very generic response. I'm gonna ask you to start typing shit into AI that's different questions.
Okay.
Leave this up for a second. So open source versus closed source, in my humble opinion, as an Uber driver, is really important with AI and crypto. And I feel hilarious even saying that sentence, like I fucking know what I'm talking about, right? But from my understanding, so Jack, I think you voiced something to me, which is the same belief that I had in my head in the past, and I've heard other people voice, and it's a belief that probably a lot of our listeners, all three of them, however many we have, but anyone who's going from zero to hero is probably going to also have this belief. I think it's a natural human belief to have, and the belief is that closed source is safer than open source because the source code is hidden and therefore harder to hack. Right? Closed source is safer because a would-be hacker can't see the source code. No. Right. And my point is,
Oh, whoops, I was muted.
Huh?
They didn't hear me. You did, because I wasn't muted to the Zoom.
Oh, okay. Let's say it again.
But what I said was that it's not as simple to say closed source code is safer because they can't see it. That is sort of true. Like you remove one attack vector, but you lose the benefit of like inoculating yourself through herd immunity by letting all the other coders see the code, try to break it, and then fix it themselves. Like that's that. So there's a plus and there's a minus to it, is what I would say.
Yes, and I think there's a lot more to it than that. And actually, I do not hold the belief. In fact, especially when it comes to crypto, I do not hold the belief that closed source is in any way safer than open source in any situation. I believe open source is always safer than closed source for a number of reasons. In fact, why don't we pull up an AI? You can do it in Google, or you can do it in Chat GPT, or whatever AI you use. Pull up whatever AI you normally use. And then if you want to use Google, that's fine too. And type in open source versus closed source, and type in, just add to it. You can just add to it, add with regards to crypto security or something like that. I don't know how to word it, but something like that. And I want to make it crypto specific, because I think it's a really big deal when it comes to crypto. And I would want to talk about AI as well, but but I know less about that. Okay, so we're looking at, yeah, dude, go to an AI, go to ChatGPT or those people also ask, what was that? Yeah, just go to AI, Gemini. That's fine. Uh-oh, what's going on? And by the way, if you're talking right now, Jack, I can't hear you. I still can't hear you if you're trying to talk. Oh, yeah. Okay, try ChatGPT or Grok or something. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so yeah, type. There you go. Oh, that's small writing. Let me see if I can make it bigger on my screen. Okay. The debate between open source and closed source software, particularly in the context of cryptocurrency security, revolves around trust, transparency, and control. Here's a breakdown. Yeah, perfect. Code transparency, peer-reviewed security, audits, and contributions. So, uh, long story short, I think open source is way more secure for, well, yeah, you got decentralized consensus, complexity, malicious actors. So, for one thing, um, saying that closed source doesn't have the attack vector of people seeing the source code, I don't even know if that's true. Um, but I do know that everything closed source that I've ever run across in crypto gets fucking hacked. Like, and I think it's because, like you said, open source has more eyeballs on the code, and therefore the code becomes more robust. The code becomes better written. The code becomes, and if the code is written uh, well enough, there are no backdoors or there's no vulnerabilities to it, right? If the open source code is properly written and audited by lots of people, and a lot of crypto projects will have bug bounties where they will offer money. They'll say, hey, if you can find something, if you can find an exploit, we'll pay you 50 grand or 5 million or whatever. Um, in fact, in the early days of DeFi back in 2020 and 2021, DeFi protocols were getting hacked like every single day. Something would get hacked. It was ridiculous. Things would get hacked. They'd lose $100 million. They lose $1 billion, just like all the time. And then, like, if it was a white hat actor, they would give the money back, and then oftentimes the project would give them a reward of like 10% or something. They'd even try that with black hat actors. Um, and the black hat actors would then send all of the money to a crypto mixer, and that was the response. Other times they'd demand more money, but I mean, things used to get hacked all the time, and like, um, yeah, like you said, with open source, it gives more eyeballs looking at the code, which is more opportunities to find issues with the code and fix them. And a lot of closed source projects, well, there's two things with closed source projects. One is whoever, Jack, the whole point of crypto is that you don't have to trust people. That's the whole point of crypto. Exactly. If it's closed source, well, okay. Yes, because I am computer code illiterate, I have to trust people anyway. But I can ask my buddy Pete, who knows how to read computer code. I can ask the other, 10,000 computer programmers in the crypto community who have read the code and looked at it, right? What I'm trying to say is, or I could get off my ass and learn computer code and read it myself, right? What I'm saying is, when it's closed source, I have to trust the person who wrote the code. Whereas when it's open source, yes. Yes, when it's closed source, there's only one person that has to be malicious. But with open source, you have a lot of people. Right. Yes. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. So I want to good. I want to keep focusing in on this topic. So what you're saying is making the code closed source reduces the attack vector of some. Yes. Yes. And what I'm trying to say is by doing so, you've introduced a new attack vector. I did, Jack, the new when you make a code closed source, you add a new attack vector, and that new attack vector is the person who wrote it. When you have open source code, you don't have the attack vector. It removes the attack vector of the original author being malicious. Does that make sense? I'm not, yes, and Jack, I'm not saying that your argument is illegitimate. What I'm trying to say is the argument we're having is the whole reason for crypto to begin with. And it's so important that I wanted to highlight it. I didn't want to argue with you for the sake of arguing. I wanted to argue for the sake of learning more about crypto, both for you and I, and for our audience, which is why I wanted, to bring up the AI because I'm an Uber driver. Like I barely know what I'm talking about. And so I wanted to, and why don't we type that now? Let's respond to Chat GPT now. Let's ask it a question. Let's ask something like, does making the source code closed source reduce an attack vector, or does it like does it make a crypto protocol more secure? Right, but Yeah. I can. That's all right. I mean, people can read for themselves on the screen. You can keep reading. I've been hearing you the whole time.
Yeah, I know you have.
Yeah. That's okay. Just keep reading.
Updates and patches, closer software, blah blah blah, longer periods. Third-party dependencies. Even in closed source software, there might be third-party libraries or dependencies that are open source. If these dependencies are vulnerable, a potential hacker could still find attack vectors through them, even if the main software itself is closed source. So, conclusion, utilizing closed source code does offer privacy of the source code itself because hackers cannot directly view it. However, this privacy does not guarantee security. Sophisticated attackers can reverse engineer binaries or uncover vulnerabilities, and the inherent risks of hidden backdoors and reliance on a centralized development team also come into play. So, while the source code is private, it doesn't make the software immune to hacking or guarantee overall security. But nowhere in there does it say that it does not make it safer.
Right. Okay. So now I want to ask. So yeah, Jack, you're 100% right. The closed source makes it more difficult for the hacker because they don't have access to the direct code. They have to reverse engineer. They have to do a lot of backflips to even try to hack it.
It just adds a layer of complexity to what they're trying to do. If they see the source code, they don't have to go through those steps. But yes, they are up against a bunch of other developers then, right? Like that's, you're thinking, safety in the numbers then.
Yes. Okay. So here's my next question to continue this chat with ChatGPT. Ask it, if closed source makes it more difficult for the hacker, why are many crypto projects open source? Something like that.
Well, again, they're going to tell us that it's the inoculation through herd mentality, but we can go ahead and ask.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's be super pedantic about it. We're all learning together here, Jack.
Closed source offers and layer complexity to
hackers
and attacker.
Perfect.
Complexity to an attacker. Why then is open source
but just make sure you refer to crypto, like in crypto. No, that's good. So frequently in crypto. No, that's perfect. Yeah, why is open source used so frequently in crypto? And by the way, closed source is used quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to dig into this.
Okay, so great question. I'm glad that I asked good questions. The use of open source code in the cryptocurrency space, despite the fact that closed source software can add complexity for attackers, is driven by several key principles and practices considerations. Let's break it down. Why open source is preferred in crypto? Transparency and trustlessness. One of the foundational principles of cryptocurrency is trustlessness, the idea that participants do not need to trust a central authority. Open source code is integral to this because it allows anyone to independently verify how the software works. Decentralization. Cryptocurrency, by its nature, aims to be decentralized. Open source code ensures that no single entity or party has complete control over the system, making it more robust and resilient to manipulation. With open source, the entire community can validate and improve the system. Auditable and secure code. Peer review, open source code allows for community-driven audits. Multiple independent developers can analyze the software, identify bugs, security flaws, or vulnerabilities, and offer patches. This crowd-sourced vetting improves the security of the system over time. A closed-source crypto project could hide security flaws or malicious code, while with open source, issues tend to be spotted and addressed faster by the wider developer community. Decentralized control. In a cryptocurrency system, no single point of failure is critical. Open source ensures that control is distributed across the ecosystem rather than being centralized in the hands of one company or entity. This is important for reducing the risks of censorship or manipulation, for example, by governments, authorities, malicious insiders, or rogue actors. If the source code were closed, users would have to trust that the centralized authority behind it has not inserted backdoors, bugs, or weaknesses. Open source, on the other hand, allows anyone to verify the integrity of the code. Innovation and evolution. Open source encourages innovation because developers worldwide can contribute to the project, improve features, and fix bugs. If the software is closed source, the development process is limited to a small centralized team, and innovation may slow down. This community-driven development is one of the key reasons for the success of many major crypto projects like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. The rapid adaptation and improvement of the software are possible because many developers are continuously working on it. Security through redundancy. With open source code, even if a vulnerability is found, it is often quickly fixed. This redundancy of checks and contributions by the community can patch vulnerabilities quickly and prevent prolonged exploitation. This is in stark contrast to closed source projects where patches may be slow and updates may not be distributed to all users quickly enough. Open source also provides public, trustless consensus around the security and functioning of the code, which is a fundamental tenet for building trust in cryptocurrencies. Man, I'm not going to keep reading all this. That's a lot. Okay.
I fucking love it, dude.
Yeah, I'm starting to go hoarse.
Let me continue reading. We're on number 6.
Thanks, sorry.
All right, I'll finish it off. Adoption and interoperability. Open source software promotes interoperability between different crypto systems and tools. If multiple projects are using open source code, they can more easily collaborate, integrate, or share protocols. Open source projects can be forked and adapted by others, meaning if a project is popular and trusted, it can be adapted to create new features or serve as the basis for other innovative projects without requiring permission from a centralized authority. Community empowerment and freedom. Open source code gives the community the freedom to experiment, improve, or even fork the software. This ensures that the system doesn't rely on a single authority for its survival and that users can choose to adopt or modify the system according to their needs. It aligns with the philosophy of cryptocurrencies, self-sovereignty and ownership. Users are not beholden to a company's whims or potential security breaches. Long-term viability. Since open source projects are driven by communities and not single entities, they tend to have a longer lifespan. Even if the original developers move on, the community can continue maintaining and improving the project, whereas closed source software could be abandoned or manipulated by the central entity in charge. Why not just use closed source then? While closed source software does offer, and we got to scroll up a little bit. Sorry. Okay, why not just use closed source then? While closed source software does offer complexity to attackers by hiding the source code, its privacy doesn't guarantee security, especially in a crypto system. If vulnerabilities are hidden in a closed source project, it may take longer to discover them, and the users must trust the developer to patch or address security concerns. Moreover, the centralized control of closed source crypto creates a significant trust issue for users, and this goes against the very ethos of decentralized, trustless systems that cryptocurrencies aim to provide. Summary: while closed source software might add an additional layer of complexity for attackers, open source software is far more aligned with the values of transparency, trustlessness, and decentralization that are at the core of cryptocurrencies. Open source code offers auditability, community-driven security, and the freedom to innovate, making it the preferred choice in the crypto world. Is that the end, probably? Okay. We can talk about it before we query ChatGPT again, because I have more questions to ask ChatGPT. But what do you think about this that we've read so far?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I figured it was going to say.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like for crypto projects, it is the best way to go. Like, I do think, I'm not trying to say that I think closed source code is the best way to go. I definitely think that, especially in the case of peer-to-peer networks, like, it makes sense. But then again, it also makes sense that I learned to read it myself, because otherwise I'm still trusting someone, right? That's kind of the way I look at it. So, like, to me, like, the difference between a closed source product and an open source one is nothing.
Okay.
Me personally, right? Because I can't read the code either way. So as far as I know, like, it's a whole group of people that have, collaborated to take my money, and they're all saying, "Yeah, dude, the code's good." Now, I know that that's not the case for the very large cryptocurrencies, obviously, right? Like, those are there's enough decentralization there. But until there's sufficient decentralization reached, like, I may as well be, buying McAfee security.
So, Jack, you bring up a good point. When it's open source, there's more people that have to collude to rob you. Right?
That is, yes, I did say that, yeah.
And
well, I didn't say it that way. What I said is that the people may as well, like, as far as I'm concerned, the difference between closed and open source is not much, because, it's, to me, it's every bit as likely that there's a group of 150 people, or 150 different, unique names, anyways, that are all in some forum saying, "Yeah, I've read this code. I'm this person. I know how." Like, the code is solid. The reality of it is I doubt that it would take that many more people to convince me that open source code was okay when it isn't than closed source. Because either way, I gotta listen to somebody and believe them.
Okay, you make another good point. So you're saying that 150 people probably could collude to rob you.
Well, I know for a fact that they could collude to rob me. It's a question of whether or not they'd be successful, right?
Right. Well, if you trusted the code that you couldn't read, then they could rob you.
I'm sorry. Say that.
Well, okay. I'm just getting to the fact that, yes, there's 150 people that could collude and tell you that the open source code is legit when it's not, right?
Or 1,000 or 10,000, but yes.
Okay. Would you say that as that number gets larger, as it goes from 1 to 10 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000, would you say that there's the bigger that number gets, the more likely that someone's going to blow the whistle and say, "Hey, this is not right"?
I mean, yeah, of course. The bigger the con gets, the more it's, harder it is to keep it quiet.
Okay, and I think that's where decentralization comes in.
Right. That's what I was saying. Yeah, if once sufficient enough decentralization occurs, then it's like, okay. But up until then, right?
Right. No, exactly. And that's why, in my opinion, a a blockchain, a crypto L1 or L2 that or a protocol that has only one node is less secure and less likely to not rob you than something with 10 nodes. And something with 10 nodes or validators or points of, decentralization would be less secure. It would be more secure than the one node, but would be less secure than the 100 nodes. And the 100 nodes would be less secure than the 1,000 nodes. And so on, right? Would you agree to that?
Yeah.
Right. So and that's what I was trying to get to. Like with crypto, it's important to maximize decentralization because that in turn maximizes security.
Yeah, when it comes to crypto, I 100% of the time believe that the code should be open source.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was never arguing against that fact.
Okay.
I was just merely discussing that you have a specific attack vector that you remove by closing the source.
Yes.
There's, of course, drawbacks to doing it, and that is, of course, that you don't get the inoculation against the virus of attack without, getting all those eyeballs on it. So, yeah, for cryptos, I mean, I definitely think that that's the best way.
Okay.
I was just basically playing the devil's advocate with you for the sake of argument. But.
Oh, totally fine. And Jack, our audience needs to hear this.
No.
There's a lot of people out there that don't understand anything that we've been talking about, and hopefully understand more of it now.
Yeah.
Because this is crucial. This is one of the ways that people lose their money in crypto.
Yep.
Like they might use a closed source wallet. They can get ripped off. They might use a closed source DeFi protocol. They might get ripped off. They might invest in a closed source or centralized blockchain and get ripped off, right? And there's multiple ways you can get ripped off, right? Like we should probably make a whole episode of how you can get ripped off in crypto because oh my god, there's a lot of ways to get ripped off in crypto.
There are for sure.
Like holy crap! I mean this whole place is like opportunities to get ripped off. Most people jump into it and they're like, I'm gonna study nothing. I'm just gonna jump into crypto and I'm gonna make money and I'm never gonna get ripped off. Like, dude, those are the people that get ripped off for sure. And it's not even ripped off. Like you just lose money on things. Like, God, it's so easy to lose money in crypto. There's so many. Like, dude, I've had my money invested in rug pulls. I've had my money invested in things that went south. Like, it's definitely a not all your eggs in one basket situation. I think even with Bitcoin, like we're looking at Bitcoin now. Bitcoin, so why and why? Again, I want to reiterate: why is Bitcoin the #1 crypto? Why is Bitcoin worth more money than all the rest of crypto combined? When it has the least functionality of any crypto, it's the least programmable. It's slow. It only does 3.5 transactions per second. It would take 30 years for everyone on the planet to make one Bitcoin transaction. It's expensive. It's over $1 a transaction. When it's busy, it can be $10 a transaction, it can be $100 a transaction. And I think in the future, and for the chain to even survive long term, it's gonna have to be $100 a transaction. As the block subsidy keeps getting cut in half every 4 years, eventually all that's left to sustain the network is going to be the transaction fees. And because there's so few transactions per block in 10-minute block, I think you can only have a couple thousand transactions. And if you're gonna, the current block subsidy is 3 Bitcoin. That's $300,000 right now, right? Is the block subsidy. And if you're gonna make if you're even gonna make $200,000 out of the block with 2,000 transactions, well, you need $100 per transaction. Like it's simple math. Like if you want the same level of security that Bitcoin has right now in the future, like in 100 years especially, but even in 20 or 30 years, you're going to need the transaction fees to be $100 a piece. So now we're talking about a network that has very little programmability, and $100 a transaction, and only 3.5 transactions per second, and the block time is 10 minutes. So any transaction you do, you have to wait at least 10 minutes to verify that your transaction even went through. Like, why in the hell is this clunky, old, slow, shitty, expensive blockchain? Why is it number one, Jack? Yes. Yes. It is the most secure, most open source, most decentralized, all of that shit. Like, Metcalf's law, users. Yeah. Yes. And Bitcoin is actually limited in growing fast by its slowness. You can only fit, 2,000 transactions in a block. That and a block can only be every 10 minutes. Like that's stupid slow. Like the maximum growth of the network is very slow. Um and I think and I'm pretty sure that's why it's taken so long to get to the point where it is now. I think Bitcoin would have gone mainstream in 2017 if it wasn't so slow. Like I think Bitcoin would already be used as a world reserve currency. I think we'd already be buying coffee at McDonald's with it. I think Bitcoin would have taken over the world in 2017. And if it was like as fast as Solana or Sui, I I think it would have. Yes, obviously, humans are slower to adapt, right? It'd be decades for humans to adapt it. But mhm. Well, that yeah, Jack, you're 100% correct, and that's exactly what our government tried to do. What you're saying was going to happen already happened. We already had choke point 2.0. Yes. Yes, it was. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Jack, I never even thought of that. How interesting is that? What if the slowness of the network growth actually made it succeed? You're jilling. Yeah, Satoshi Nakamoto is a fucking badass dude. I still think it's one person, and the, re, the reason I yeah yeah one dude totally yeah. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Yeah. No, me too. What?
I keep muting myself when I have to cough, and because I don't have my headset on like normal, and I can just flip the mic up. I literally got to click the button to mute myself. So like all of that shit I just said was not on the stream.
Did it get recorded?
No, well maybe in Zoom, maybe Zoom.
Because I heard it.
Yeah, because it's in Zoom. Yeah, I didn't mute myself in Zoom. I just muted the stream.
Well, yeah. When you put it up on YouTube or whatever, you'll just have to redo the audio with the Zoom recording.
It's a live stream, so.
Well, I mean, for live stream it's fucked, but for for the future,
maybe I can edit it and put it back up there and fix it.
Yeah.
But basically, to recap for all those who are watching in the future, and just hear me, just hear us go silent for like a solid minute and a half. Like I was basically saying that like John and I have argued about who Satoshi is for a long time, and my personal stance is that there's like a team of really really smart people, and he thinks it's one dude, and like we go back and forth on the matter. But either way, like what we're trying to say is that Bitcoin is so spectacular that I find it hard to believe that there's one person that was actually smart enough to come up with all the different things about it that would need to have been figured out in advance in order for it to be able to make it this far at this point. Because like what Bitcoin represents is a new world order of like financial system. Like it represents fixing all of humanity's fuck ups in the past with their money. And it's just amazing to me that we've been able to get to the point we are at now in such a short amount of time. Like I came into crypto in like late 2020, early 21, right? And like I remember hearing stuff about like, wouldn't it be great if governments were like just not so brutal on crypto? And now we have talk of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Like, like this is just such a whirlwind. And like, the point we were trying to make was that, or that I was trying to make, was that, and that you made, in fact, was that Bitcoin being slow may have actually saved it from being killed by, the U.S. government or some other, the Chinese government or, something. The fact that it was able to develop as slowly as it was, and I say that slowly because crypto moves with ridiculous speed. The alacrity it moves with is just, it's silly. Yeah. And so I say slowly because for crypto, a year is an eternity. Yeah. and so, the fact that it was able to kind of develop and spread out and decentralize itself as much as it has before it became as big and powerful and recognizable as it is, has actually contributed to its success. Like the only reason it's still here is because it didn't move faster. Like it didn't have 1 million transactions per second. Like it couldn't take over the financial industry right off the rip. Because if it had been able to, the powers that be would have been like, yo, we can see that this is challenging everything we are, building. So let's kill it. Kill it before it grows.
No, I think you're right. I bet in 2017, I bet people looked at it and they're like, it's not a threat. It's too slow. Won't even worry about it. Just ignore it. It'll go away.
Yeah. I know specifically I talked to a banker in 2017 who was like, are you familiar with Bitcoin? Of course, by then I'd heard of Bitcoin. I didn't own any Bitcoin, but like I was familiar with it. And I was just like, yeah, I'm familiar with it. And I'm thinking about getting some, but I just don't understand it. And he was like, man, I was really hoping that I would be able to get to the end of my life and not have to understand this stuff. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I just thought open source versus closed source would be a good topic for today, and I think I was right about that.
Yeah, definitely a good topic.
Yeah, and I think it's just really important to understand that for these principles that ChatGPT was talking about with trustlessness and decentralization, open source. Like, we need those things in crypto. And if you're messing around with something closed source in crypto, that's at your own risk. Like, if you're using a wallet, if DeFi protocol, if you're using a blockchain, check to see if that shit's open source or not. Because if it's not open source, it might be a problem.
Well, it probably is a problem. Like at this point in time, there are only a few closed source crypto projects that I even am aware of, and like I think the biggest one is not even it's not even a crypto. It's just a project in crypto. Coinbase's base, right?
Well, one thing I think is wallets, right? There's a lot of wallets that are closed source.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's not a good look. You want your wallet to be open source.
Yeah, I've kind of come around on that. I was cool with closed source until like a wrench attack occurred against the person that would probably be the gatekeeper of the code, and after that I was like, yeah, okay, so this code's fucked.
Yeah.
You know, and if for those of you who aren't aware, or if can't decipher my cagey speak, like a former C-suite, I think it was the CEO, a former CEO of Ledger, but either way, a C-suite individual was wrench attacked. They kidnapped him and his wife, and pretty sure they cut his finger off and sent it to his wife.
Holy shit.
Probably because he said, "Listen, I don't even have all the details that you want in order to protect, us against something like this. We've split up the knowledge of these things," and they were like, "Okay, give us what you know."
Yeah, we'll split up.
And then and we won't kill you. And he says, "Fine, here's what I do know." And then they went, "Great, cut his finger off and send it to his wife, who we've got in the other safe house." You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know if that's how it went down, but I envisioned something like that.
I've seen movies like that.
Well, this is confirmed that this dude was treated for a hand injury.
No, I heard about it. I didn't read about it because I didn't want to be traumatized by it.
No.
But yeah, and that's the whole thing is with closed source, you have a single point of failure.
Yep, that's for sure.
And the whole point of crypto is to be not a single point of failure. That's the whole point of decentralization and open source and trustlessness, is so that there is not a single point of failure.
Also, so that there's censorlessness.
Yep, and censorship resistance and all that. Yeah, definitely. And that's the difference. That's the whole point of crypto, because you can have, U.S. dollars, you can transmit anywhere in the world, right? Like, you don't need crypto for that. You can use PayPal or your bank or whatever. But what those things don't have is they don't have censorship resistance. They don't have the security. Banks get hacked all the time, right? Like, there's fraudulent transactions all the fucking time in the banking system. And
I mean, that's a whole can of worms we could get into. We'll save that for another episode, though, because when you say that, I'm like, yeah, sure, but then again, that also means they can claw back transactions and protect you.
That's centralization versus decentralization.
Right, because in crypto, if it's gone, it's gone. There's no getting it back, right?
Yeah.
Be careful what you do with your crypto, because you can't get it back.
Right. With open source versus closed source, I think wallets being open source is important. That's why I like Trust Wallet is open source. I think the Coinbase wallet is open source. Trezor cold storage wallet is open source. Now there's lots of other wallets, cold, hot, and hardware or software wallets that are some are closed source and some are open source. You got to figure out for yourself. I've just named a few that I know are open source and I know are high quality wallets. MetaMask is open source. And I just think that being open source is so crucial. Oh, Soulflare on the Solana blockchain, the Soulflare wallet's open source. those are the main ones I use. I think I use MetaMask, Soulflare, Trust Wallet, and I'm going to get a Trezor. I don't have a Trezor yet, but I'll get one.
That's my wallet I'm going to target now, and I'm going to get one for myself and some other folks too.
Yeah,
need them. Yeah.
As far as I know, Trezor is the most legit.
Yeah, I think it's the largest of the open source wallets. I think, right?
Yeah,
hardware wallets. We're talking hardware with Trezor.
Yes, yeah. Trezor is a hardware wallet. Every other wallet I mentioned is a software wallet.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, man. I think that makes for a pretty good episode right there.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up. I think we'll go ahead and call it there. If you guys have liked the episode, please give us a like, give us the old thumbs up, destroy that like button. Yeah. Consider
the next episode.
Yeah, consider subscribing with your bell notifications so that you can join us when we're live next time and ask questions. We would love to field some questions from you.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Yeah, we're real new at this, in case you didn't already notice, and we're not we're not like super important or anything like that. We're just some regular schmoes that are trying to get better at crypto and have been here for a little while. So, if you want to learn what we know and get a jump start on what you're knowing or whatever, even if maybe you know a hell of a lot more than us and you just want to make our community better, that's cool too. Feel free to join us when we stream live, ping the notifications, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, Jack, I think next time we should do centralization versus decentralization.
Good. That's a good topic.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do some research so that we're actually maybe better